Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la. Oh, we start the new Amsterdam. Stare at this little haired girl. Mr. Jones strikes up a conversation with the black hair, the mean coat dancing.
Welcome back to Beach Eats. I'm going down to Uruguay in the fall for a little while to work in a restaurant in the middle of nowhere, which I like. I love doing that stuff. And what they do down there, and I kind of like it here too. I mean, it's kind of southern, but it's also very South American. A la plancha, la plancha. Somebody can correct me if they want to, but it's flat iron cooking, cast iron cooking, and I agree with it. Grilling is phenomenal and it's awesome, and I grill in every restaurant, I grill at home, but it can dry stuff out. Cooking in a cast iron skillet or on just at home, I have a big piece of steel that I put over a wood fire in the back of my yard, and we'll cook on that like everything. I mean, desserts, breads, all kinds of stuff. But you can do the same in a cast iron skillet, but it's hard to cook like this at home, in home. So, one of the things that I have, if I'm using a cast iron skillet or even have this portable burner when we go, with a group of friends and chefs, I hang out with a lot of chefs, and sometimes we'll go up to a couple parks or things around here or in someone's backyard, and we'll bring a couple portable burners and cook outside because we don't want to destroy the houses with smoke and grease and everything. So I'll put a cast iron skillet on. In this case, it's been on for a few minutes, but I'd rather have it on for about 5 or 6 minutes so it is like incredibly hot. And why I want to do that is I have a steak here, and a porterhouse steak here. Difference between a porterhouse and a T-bone, I'm sure most of you know, T-bone just has a smaller fillet. A porterhouse or a T-bone is half New York strip, half filet mignon. And I have, the bigger the fillet, that's when it gets past a point in the pin bone, it becomes a porterhouse and not a T-bone. So if you ever get a porterhouse or order one, and it is not, the fillet side is not that big, it is not a porterhouse. That is it, and it can be even bigger, but sometimes they'll sell you one, it'll just have this little piece right there. That's not fair. That's a T-bone, and T-bone's $10 less in a restaurant, and it's a lot less in a grocery store. The most important thing about cooking steak or fish, you see fish getting like seared real well. It comes out in a restaurant really crusty, or steak comes out crusty. It's because the outside has been patted dry on the outside. There's no water. I do not put out, I'm not even going to salt this because of what I'm going to do to it later. And sea salt's not good to salt it with because it'll leave room between the steak and the pan. You can salt, do whatever you want if it's going on the grill, but in a pan, cooking stuff flat, searing fish, it has to be dry, and unless it's like crusted in fennel and all that stuff, don't put a thing on it. Make sure it's dry so that you can get a really good sear on it, and that's important with a steak in my opinion. The other most important thing is when you're finished, never cut into it. Wait 3 to 5 minutes before you cut into a piece of meat. Not just roast, that's like 15, 20. Steaks is a little smaller. So I hope this pan, it's kind of getting there. It's not going to get quite as hot because the wind's blowing a little bit. But it's looking pretty good. So hopefully we can get it a little bit. The other thing I did is I bought a brand new cast iron skillet, which needs to be seasoned, and what I would do at home is I would cut a bunch of fat off of some steak and rub it into this pan when it was warm, and then just let it render down in the pan. You never put soap in a cast iron skillet. It's just a little warm water and a rag, and you just wipe it out. That's it. A lot of people like to salt it with oil, and you can see the smoke right now. It's starting to smoke, and when I think that was canola oil. When that starts to smoke, it means it's really hot. You never want to use olive oil when you're cooking like this because it'll burn and it'll get bitter. Olive oil, good olive oil, if you're going to spend a lot of money on olive oil, don't ever cook with it. Don't put it in anything. Always put it on after the fact. Like, for example, if you're doing a big pot of soup or a big red sauce, people put all this olive oil in it, but then it gets diluted in, 3 gallons, 2 gallons of tomatoes. So you've spent 20 bucks on a bottle of olive oil, or 30. In our Italian restaurant, we have, $100 bottles of olive oil that we use to drizzle on stuff. You've wasted your time and money because you won't taste the flavor. When you make spaghetti or anything with red sauce, even soups, just drizzle a little olive oil on it at the end. That way you get that flavor. When you bite into a big, twist up a big forkful of pasta and it's got olive oil on the outside, not diluted in the sauce, you'll really get that like really beautiful, fruity, sometimes grassy, sometimes spicy flavor. So always drizzle on afterwards, which is something we're going to do here too. So that pan looks hot enough, and I'm going to cook this rare because I just don't feel like waiting for it to finish. I'm going to put it right in. I'm not going to touch it. Okay, remember, this is my dirty rag. So this is, I'll keep that there. This is good. So while that's sitting there, you know, what I like with steak, what I did here is I have large scallions. It's like a small Vidalia onion bulb. You see, can you see the size? What I did with these is I cut the green stalks off. I use those for something else. And then I blanched in boiling, not boiling. You should never boil anything, even pasta. You should bring the water to a boil, turn it back to medium high. I'm not like, I'm aggressive in this style, but like boiling stuff, anything, you can cook the outside before the inside is cooked. So you want to kind of almost simmer stuff. And you'll get the same thing. Even pasta, you put it in on medium, it'll cook just as fast, but it'll have the same texture all the way through, especially with thicker noodles. So I simmered this. I like that light. So I simmered this just for about 3 or 4 minutes, just to break it down a little bit. Then put the onions with bay leaf, chilies, and a little bit of garlic and mustard seed and white vinegar. Filled it up with some salt, and that was about 2 or 3 days ago. Because I love pickled onions with steak, and so I did that. You can do pickled Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, whatever you want. It'll be great. I just like the big bulbs of onion like this. And it really, the vinegar, what it does is it cuts out all that like hardcore onion flavor, which I also like in certain applications. Take that out and it softens it up a little bit. It softens the bite of the onion up a little bit. And it's great as a condiment on the side of a steak or chicken or, you know, pork or ribs. It's great with barbecued ribs. Any of that stuff, it's great. The other thing that I do, and I'm going to do this with corn, because I'm going to put corn right in this thing. You know, if you're vegetarian, there's going to be some meat fat in it, but I want to burn the corn a little bit too, which is just another way to really bring out flavor and caramelize stuff. But then I have this herb oil that I made. I hope I don't need this plate for anything. This herb oil is kind of like a Delaware version of a chimichurri sauce. You know, you can see right here. Well, it'll run off. It's got lemon zest in it, whatever herbs you want. I prefer mint, rosemary, and basil, and parsley. Big hunk of it in a blender with just a little bit of garlic. Shave 1 or 2 lemon zest off. I put a green chili, which I have in here for this little tomato salad. A green chili raw, and then a red dried pepper in for it's like a little dry smokiness, and then the fresh green goes in there. Little salt, little pepper, and then a mix of olive oil and grapeseed oil, or you can use canola oil, because this is, once again, is something to drizzle on after the fact. So, and then I fill it up with a lot of oil. I don't want a pesto, I want an oil, and then I pulse a food processor or a blender. A blender is better because a food processor stuff will still get underneath the blade and not fully chopped. So I prefer a blender, and you just kind of click it on and off about 4 or 5 times, and then around the 6th or 7th time, put it on for like 3 seconds, and then stop it, and then, you know, pour it into a jar and let it sit for a couple hours, and it just has great flavor. And we're going to use that, you know, to use on the steak, or I can take it right now. I can pour some of it right here into the marinated tomatoes. That's going to play a part in the scallop dish and the steak that I do. With a little bit of vinegar and salt on this one, a little bit of vinegar and salt on this one. You want to do that about a half an hour to an hour ahead of time, so it starts pulling some of that tomato juice out, and it'll add a lot of flavor. And the thing is, most people throw this stuff away when they're done. Most people throw this stuff away, but this oil and little tomato vinegar down there would be great on a salad the next night. It's great to put on top of anything. So don't throw that stuff away. You got a lot of acid already in the tomato, so you don't, you know, it's like already a vinaigrette. It's like a pure tomato vinaigrette, which is great. So anyways, we're going to take a commercial break, and when I come back, we're going to finish this steak and then do some scallops and do whatever else I thought I was going to do up here. We'll be right back. Okay. Okay. Welcome back. Welcome back to BeachEats. Get a good shot of that. Hurry up. Got it? It's not rare right now. But here, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that, though. Okay.